Hey, entrepreneurs, if you want to be productive, you've got to take breaks, and you've got to use breaks strategically and in the right way in your schedule. So we're going to talk about what that means, how to schedule breaks proactively to be able to get more out of yourself. Let me first share the difference between average people and entrepreneurs, because there is a significant difference and it matters to how you approach taking breaks. So an average individual has a comfort zone, right? Sometimes when they push themselves a little bit harder, they go up towards the edges of their comfort zone, and then they come back down into this trough and they relax a bit, and then they push up a little bit more. What tends to happen is if you don't stretch this comfort zone, if you don't purposefully try to relax more and push yourself higher to new heights of tolerating whatever it is, whether it's physical activity or whether it's just your capacity to work long hours, if you don't stretch yourself, gradually what happens is you see a bit of a narrowing of a person's capacity. To their comfort zone actually shrinks. And what we call that atrophy in the world of like muscle building and bodybuilding, right? Your muscles, if not used, atrophy. If you're in a hospital bed for a while, sometimes they'll have to teach you how to walk again because the muscles atrophy so much in such a quick time, and the nerve connections between your brain and those muscles. In the world of, let's say, copywriting, if you don't practice and use your copywriting skills, they will atrophy over time. If you use them all the time, though, what tends to happen is your capacity to push higher actually gets diminished because you're putting on the brakes subconsciously. There's a part of you that's holding back. And so what entrepreneurs need to do is sometimes push up into this stress zone, right? You want to go up into that stress zone some of the time, because what that does is it increases your total capacity, so that now when you come up here, you're still within your comfort zone, right? And that could mean that you push yourself outside of your comfort zone to learn public speaking, and then you need to come back and take a break. It could be that you use time boxing and you really push yourself to follow a schedule and do exactly what you intended with each hour of your day. I actually personally experienced this, where I hired a coach to work with me on this. I had to send a picture every day of my schedule for the next day, both my work hours and my after work hours. And it stressed me out because I was used to time boxing just my most important tasks and leaving most of the rest of the day just kind of fluid. And instead I had to schedule in buffers. If I needed a buffer just for taking lunch, I needed to actually schedule that. And it created psychological stress for me because I wasn't used to that level of time boxing. And so I was pushing myself outside of my comfort zone here. But as a result, my comfort zone grew significantly. So now my comfort zone was much bigger. Instead of this previous comfort zone that was here, now my time boxing capacity, now when I try to do time boxing, I'm able to do it better. Well, how did I get to that point? I got to that point by pushing myself outside my comfort zone, but then I also rested. I didn't just continuously do that. I actually gave myself a break, and I went back to my normal ways for just about a week, and I started to de-stress. And then I was like, you know what? There were a lot of benefits to doing that time boxing. So I went back to it again. And as a result, over time, my capacity to deal with that kind of stress went up so much that it doesn't feel like stress anymore, right? So that's expanding your capacity. Now, here's the difference. With entrepreneurs, this is what I often see. This is your comfort zone in here, but entrepreneurs tend to do this. And they just continuously stay up there in this high stress state. And at some point, your body starts pushing back psychologically, whether it's at the neurochemical level, just depletion of your capacity for focus. Sometimes it's mood and you don't notice it. Sometimes it's sleep deprivation. That is when you schedule breaks, when you schedule time off in advance in particular, that leads to higher quality of life, but it also protects you against burnout. Shawn Achor, some of you may have seen on YouTube, he's got a famous TED Talk. He's a psychologist who has done a lot of work in the field of happiness. And what he found is that employees who take frequent breaks are more productive. Their job satisfaction goes up and their productivity goes up. And that's counterintuitive, right? We think of taking breaks as slacking off, but what you're really doing is you're allowing yourself to sprint toward goals. You're allowing yourself to push harder when you are working. And then when you're not working, you're really doing that without any guilt. And that's the key here. And that's part of the reason why for entrepreneurs that I suggest that you schedule time off in advance. One of the keys I want to point out here is that scheduling the time off in advance has a greater impact on improving your physical and psychological health. There's actually been research studies showing that people have fewer heart attacks when they plan vacations, not just have vacations, but actually plan them in advance, because knowing that you have that break coming actually allows you to relax more into the difficult work of pushing yourself hard. In fact, because I'm taking a break next week, I'm working at a much faster pace this week, partly because I'm getting ahead on some things. At the subconscious level, I'm no longer holding myself back, feeling like, well, it's just more of the same tomorrow and the day after that and the day after that. Instead, I'm pushing because I know a break is coming. Just like if you were running a marathon and you see that finish line, suddenly you can have an extra burst of speed because psychologically you see that you're very close and you can just push a little bit more. So it's a mistake to do this marathon, always trying to push yourself higher and higher without also doing the corresponding other side of that, which is taking a break. So now that we've reviewed the importance of taking time off, let's talk about how to schedule it into your daily routines. So the first thing is, I want you to plan it in advance and to create some sort of reminder to yourself, whether it's once per quarter to plan a week off for the coming quarter, or if it's once per week to plan just a few small breaks during your week. The key is that I want you to create some sort of reminder to yourself to plan some time off. Second thing, schedule regular breaks. I mean small breaks. If you haven't experimented with the Pomodoro technique before, see if that works for you. That's the concept of working for 25 minutes, 5-minute break, 25 minutes sprint, 5-minute break. There's something about that cadence that a lot of people have found it really does help them to get more done. And I think it's because that break is built in. It also is because that break allows you to see the 25 minutes as a very small segment of time, and you're thinking, I can't get much done in that time. So you actually work faster because of Parkinson's law, that concept that work expands to fill the time available for its completion. So if you have smaller chunks like 25 minutes, you often work faster thinking, I've got to get something done in that 25 minutes, compared to just approaching a 10-hour workday, and you just kind of go at a slower pace because you're thinking you have plenty of time. The next thing is to set boundaries with your team, with your clients, with your customers. Tell them in advance why you're taking time off, that you're taking time off, and then stick to those boundaries. You really need to have a true break. If you're going to take some time off, you need your brain to be doing different things to refresh itself. The other thing about planning in advance is that by planning in advance, you can make sure that your schedule makes it possible for you to take that time off without a lot of stress. And so part of that is planning ahead to take the vacation, but part of it too is planning ahead so that you can actually take off time because you've scheduled things to be finished in the right time so that you can really have a good psychological break. So your peak productivity challenge for this week is to sit down, look at your calendar, and schedule one day off in the next month or 1 week off in the next quarter. And let's watch to see how that pulling back, that choice to pull back, actually improves your productivity and prevents burnout and helps you to achieve the heights that you're capable of as an entrepreneur. Talk to you soon.